So recently, in addition to working full-time as a flight attendant, I have decided to go back to working in the schools as a school psychologist 4 days a week. I fly on the weekends, I work in the schools during the week, and I am writing my newest novel, The Last Nanny. The number one question I get from friends, family, even my own husband who lives in the house with me is, Becky, how are you able to do this? How are you managing your time? How can this possibly work? For the last 20 years of my life, I've been trying to figure out how to get more done in less time. I've read books, taken classes, and tried elaborate and sometimes costly planning and time management systems, all so that I could pursue, create, and basically do all the things I want to accomplish with my life. Today, I'm sharing with you what I've discovered to be the most important elements to managing your time and getting the most out of yourself every day, every week, and every year. Let's get started. If you're new to my channel, welcome. My name is Rebecca Taylor. I work as a psychologist 4 days a week, a flight attendant 2 to 3 days a week, and write psychological thrillers in my spare time. If that weren't enough, I'm also a wife and a mother, but please know both of my children are now adults, so it's not like I'm getting up in the middle of the night for those feedings, hauling diaper bags, and strollers around anymore. I'm just paying for college tuition. So let's hope that those book sales pick up for 2024. Please subscribe and click the bell icon to help out with those YouTube algorithms. You'll be the first to know when I upload new videos. Okay, so let's talk about time and the management of it. One of the most valuable lessons I've learned over the last 20 years of trying to do all the many things is that time is my single greatest resource. It's finite, unrenewable, and once I've used it on something, that time is now gone to me forever. I cannot grow time or earn more time. Once I have spent time, I will never ever get it back. So yeah, I think time is a pretty important commodity, and I have no interest in spending it frivolously. But the problem is there are only 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 30 or 31 days in a month. So if you have a lot of big dreams, a lot of things you'd like to accomplish with your time, how can we maximize our limited resources and make sure that we're getting the most out of our minutes? I'm going to share with you my thoughts about time and how I frame it and some of my best management tips. So this first one really gets into sort of your lifestyle. And if you're kind of wondering, well, how does lifestyle have anything to do with time management? Hopefully we can answer that by the end of this. So I want to talk about how you manage your energy. When we're run down and burned out, it doesn't matter if we have an entire week of free time. We aren't likely to use it productively. If we're feeling sick or we have just burnt ourselves out completely, if we get any sort of free time at all, it's likely we're going to be lying on the couch, scrolling through Netflix that entire time, just trying to recharge our body and make ourselves feel better. So for me, when I'm talking about managing my time, it all really starts with taking care of my body and my mental health so that when I do have free time to use as I wish to work on projects or to get an extra report done or something like that, I have the mental capacity and also just the physical energy to accomplish those things. So the first thing I want to talk about here is sleep. I fly on the weekends. My schedule can be really erratic. Sometimes I'm working red eyes from one end of the country to the other. And so believe me when I tell you, I know how disabling sleep deprivation can be, both mentally and physically. So that's why getting good sleep is probably my number one priority when it comes to thinking about time management and accomplishing things. I am always aiming to get a solid 8 hours of rest every day that I can. And so that means that I'm going to bed at about the same time. I'm not a night owl. I'm actually a morning person. So I'm usually trying to get into bed about 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And I wake up between 5 and 6 o'clock every morning. Now, when I'm flying, I don't always have that luxury. Like I said, sometimes I'll be working a red-eye flight. So I'm having to adjust for those days, but I'm always trying to get back to that regular schedule so that even if it gets thrown off for a day or two, I'm very quickly able to recover and get back on track with my sleep. My number two, when it comes to maintaining your energy, is hydration. Again, I live in Colorado. We are an arid state. We are also at 5,200 feet. We have a lot of elevation here. It's very dry. And so I can tell you, anyone who comes to visit us, it's the number one thing they struggle with, making sure they're staying hydrated. So it is very important to me. I make sure that I'm getting enough water every day. Thankfully, I love the taste of water. I've never had a problem with that. Number three, when it comes to managing your energy, for me anyway, is keeping an eye on that alcohol intake. I love a good glass of wine as much as the next person, but I can absolutely tell you that throughout the holiday seasons or other time when it comes to managing your energy, for me anyway, is keeping an eye on that alcohol intake. I love a good glass of wine as much as the next person, but I can absolutely tell you that throughout the holiday seasons or other time when there's been maybe a little bit too much celebrating going on, alcohol is definitely impacting the energy levels that I have, leaving me feeling sluggish and like I don't want to get anything done. So I definitely think if you have a lot of things you're trying to accomplish, if you're trying to get a business off the ground, if you're trying to get that book written, you may consider laying off the alcohol for a little while. It's definitely going to help with those first two items I mentioned, which are sleep and hydration. You're going to find yourself waking up feeling more refreshed and able to kind of tackle your day and all the tasks that you have lined out for yourself. The fourth item in my energy category is going to be, of course, food intake. Now, please do not imagine that I am the most healthy eater on the planet, because I stop and have fast food on occasion, just like everybody else. But I definitely know that if I'm eating a lot of junk consistently for a number of days at a time, I'm not functioning at optimal levels. And so I really do think that those four things, if you can kind of get on a good sleep schedule, make sure that you're maintaining hydration, limit or cut out that alcohol use, and watch what you're eating in terms of like sugar, super fatty foods, that kind of thing. You're going to find yourself with a lot more energy throughout your day, so that when you do have that time throughout your day, you can maintain focus, you can maintain your energy, and you're able to just get more done. Now, my number two area that I have found really helpful when I'm trying to get the most out of the minutes that I have every day is organization. When we're scattered and unorganized with our schedule, goals, or physical spaces, we can waste a lot of time. If we're unorganized around our schedule, we don't really have any sense of what we're going to be doing with our day. We don't know how we want to spend those minutes. We don't know how we're going to spend those hours. Or, we may just find ourselves lying around watching Netflix all day, every day. And don't get me wrong, I do have days where I like to just binge watch a great show or really enjoy a movie as well. But I just realized that those have to be, like desserts. They're a treat. They're not something I can spend the majority of my free time doing. Otherwise, I'm not ever going to finish writing that book, or I'm not ever going to get that YouTube video filmed. Now, one thing I have found that helps when I'm talking about schedules and goals is I'm maintaining a planner system. Now, if you saw my 2024 planner lineup, I'll link it in the description below. You can see that I have a few different planners that I have lined up for 2024. And all of these are sort of focusing on those different kind of columns in my life. So I have my planner that's just focusing on my writing career. I have my planner that is set up for just like my life and my flying schedule. And then I also have my planner that is solely about the work I'm doing as a school psychologist. For me, it helps having those schedules and those plans segmented so that when I am at the school, I have that planner with me and I can see these are the things I need to get done. When I'm flying, I can see, okay, this is what my schedule is looking like for the week. These are the free time, like this is how long my layover is going to be. I'm going to be able to get, maybe some writing done during that time, or I can script a YouTube video. And it just helps me sort of know where I have that free time so that I can sometimes be doing more than one thing at a time. For example, if I'm on a trip and I have a 3-hour sit in the Denver airport or the Chicago airport, that's 3 hours that I can spend working on my book or scripting a YouTube video, or I can spend it writing a blog post. And I can be at work as a flight attendant, but during those downtimes, I can be utilizing that time for the other aspects, the other careers that I have going on as well. This brings up the topic of goals. And so one thing, when it comes to spending our time, if we don't have sort of a direction or a roadmap of where we want to be heading in our life, it can make it difficult to sort of manage that time effectively, because you're sort of like, you don't really know what you want to spend your time on. If you have these clear goals of where you want to be this month, this quarter, this year, in the next 5 years kind of thing, it's going to help you sort of know, like, okay, this is where I want to spend my time today. This is where I'm going to be spending my time this week. And you have a plan in place. And so that's where really I sort of use my planners for. They're helping me determine and set the goals that I have, for this year, the next 5 years, my life really. And then how am I going to build that schedule that's going to help me reach those goals? The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to organization is just your house, your office, the materials that you have, and just making sure that there's at least some baseline of organization there. And, I am certainly, if we pointed this camera around the house, I am not doing a home influencer channel. And there's a reason why. This is not my strong point. I am not, a super organized person. But I do maintain and realize I have to have some base level of, the laundry is kept up with, the dishes are done, there's groceries, that are in the refrigerator and things like that. And the reason why is because this is one of those foundational, just sort of living things that you have to get taken care of, because when you're constantly running around or you can't find what you need, you're wasting a lot of time trying to figure out just baseline life things, particularly if you have other people, like smaller children in your house. You don't have the luxury to just sort of let all that go. We have to stay up with those things. And I find that if I keep my house reasonably tidy and organized, if I keep my office reasonably tidy and organized, I'm able to pull out the equipment I need in order to make a video, and I don't have to spend an entire week digging through boxes and closets and things like that, trying to get lights set up and figure out, where's my microphone. If I'm keeping things just sort of organized, they don't have to be perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but we do have to have some level of organization when it comes to the resources that we're going to need, the home that we're going to be living in, the office that we're going to be working in. And I think it just helps us to not get distracted by those things. We're better able to spend our time working on those tasks and objectives that are in alignment with our goals that we have scheduled in our planners, and that we are just able to get more done with our time instead of wasting it sweeping the floor. The next thing I want to talk about when it comes to managing your time is just your focus. Your ability to sort of just sit still and get the work done. Once we've figured out our goals and what we want to spend our time on, we need to learn to focus our attention and actively work on the tasks and those objectives that will move the needle towards accomplishing those goals. So it can be really difficult. There are a never-ending array of distractions in this world. And so I think one of the things we should talk about when it comes to managing your time is actively focusing your attention when you do have those minutes or those hours to spend working on that book, that business, whatever it is that you're trying to get done this week. And so that means that when you sit down to work, you really are in that mindset, okay, I am working. You're not getting pulled, your attention's not getting pulled to those wide array of distractions that are going to pull you away from utilizing those minutes effectively. Some of the things I have found that help me accomplish that is just really knowing what it is that I want to get done this week. And so I create a weekly task list. Like, these are the things I know across my school psychology career, when I'm going to be flying, and where I am with the current book that I want to get done this week. And I create sort of these weekly highlights of like the big ticket items. And so that'll kind of go in that left sidebar of my weekly planner. And then each day I'm creating to-do lists. I have a daily to-do list and I have that weekly to-do list. Now that weekly to-do list is really going to be more about like, okay, these are the big things I need to get done. I need to get this IEP written. I need to, leave for this trip at this particular time. So I need to make sure my laundry's done and I'm packed and ready to go for that. I need to get that blog post because I have got myself, I have committed myself to one blog post a week. I need to film that video because I have committed to releasing one video a week. And so those are my big ticket weekly items that I want to focus on. Now my daily to-do list is going to look a little bit different. This is going to get into some of that, that minutia sort of things. I'm going to find those elements from my weekly task list that I want to get accomplished throughout the week. But on that daily list, you're also going to find things like make the bed, do the dishes, fold my laundry, go grocery shopping, go buy cat litter, get Billy groomed, whatever it is that I need to get done that day. So that gets more into like the nitty gritty, managing those day-to-day aspects of our lives that we have to keep up with in order to keep that baseline organization happening throughout our house, throughout our offices, with our materials. And so having those daily task lists of, just household chores, what do we need to get done, interspersed with career-related items that I'm getting done as well, I have found to be the most helpful. Another thing when it comes to our focus is that be prepared to sit in that discomfort zone before you reach your flow state, and don't be tempted by distractions. So what do I mean by this? So for example, when I sit down to work on something that's going to be cognitively difficult to initiate. And what do I mean by that? So say I've been, vacuuming the floors, or I've been making beds, and these are things that, you do it, it's a physical activity. Once it's completed, you get the reward of like, aha, a made bed. That looks great. Aha, clean floors. I enjoy that. That makes me feel good. But then transitioning into doing like writing fiction, it can feel a little more arduous to switch into those more cognitively heavy tasks, to initiate them. And the reason why is because it takes a little while to get into our flow state. And so I think sometimes what happens, I've seen it happen with other writers I've talked to, I've experienced it myself, is you're sitting down getting ready to work and you are distracted. It's easy to follow the siren call of the internet, social media, something that is going to pull us away from that discomfort of trying to initiate a more heavy cognitive task. And so the trick is to just sit and be still and not allow yourself to engage in those activities. Now, this can take practice, and I think sometimes we just kind of subconsciously start scrolling through the internet, but this is not helping us get that task accomplished that we really want to get done. And so it is just realizing, okay, this is that time I'm feeling uncomfortable because I'm trying to write a book, or I'm trying to write a psych report, or any of these things that are just more cognitively tasking than making a bed. And also the reward of them is much farther out. I don't sit down to write for an hour and then say, finally I wrote a whole book. No, it takes a lot more time. It takes weeks and months, sometimes years for me to write a book. And so the reward, the payoff, of the completion of the task is much further down the road. It's so much more, it's a lot easier to get distracted and pulled off task when we're doing something that is cognitively more difficult. Which leads me to my final tip, which is identify what your personal time wasters are. So for me, for example, I love watching movies. I love watching and binge watching television shows. For other people I know, and maybe some people in my house, it's video games. It can be social media. It can actually even be things that feel like things we should be spending our time on. So for example, reading books or other content. And so there's nothing wrong with doing any of these things. I'm not saying you can't ever do any of those things if you want to manage your time appropriately. I think you just need to be aware of when you are abusing those things, or you are running to those things in order to procrastinate or avoid doing the work that we want to be doing to build our books, to build our businesses, whatever that is. And so I think it's just really easy, I know it is for me personally, to get sucked into, not just watching one movie on Netflix on a Saturday, but watching 2 movies or an entire season of a show. And so then suddenly I haven't spent 2 hours doing a leisure activity. I have spent 8, maybe even 10 hours doing that. It's the same thing with video games. I don't personally play video games, mostly just because I'm terrible at them, and so I don't get any enjoyment out of them. But I do know that video games are designed to capture your attention and keep your attention. They are psychologically designed to do that. And so there is a reward system that's built into gaming that is very addictive and very difficult to break away from once you have started gaming for the day. Same thing with social media. It's the same thing. You're scrolling and you're just getting those hits of dopamine, and you can find, if you're like me, you can find sometimes you have meant to just go look at 1 or 2 things, and then you scroll through content that is designed to be appealing to you, and then you scroll through a few more things, and next thing you look up and it's like, wow, where did the whole last hour go? I did not even mean to spend an hour scrolling through Instagram, but there it was. It's a wasted time. And so did I enjoy it? Maybe for a little bit, like maybe 5 or 10 minutes of that would have been enjoyable. But if I've spent an hour scrolling through Instagram, mostly afterwards I feel kind of bad. Like, why did I allow myself to get sucked in to that? And I think a lot of times people feel the same way about video games. It's like, yes, you enjoyed doing it. Maybe if you had spent an hour, 2 hours doing it, you would come away saying, oh, that was enjoyable. I'm glad I spent my time, doing that thing I enjoy doing for 2 hours. But if, it's been 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours, I think a lot of times we come away from that activity not feeling our best and not feeling like we have utilized our time the way we had planned or wished we would have. Now, when it comes to books and other content, this is a little tricky, right? Because I write books. I love reading books. I love reading both fiction and nonfiction books. But I will also say that it can also be a way, just like other things we enjoy, where we are spending or getting lost or losing our lives in this content to such a degree that, we're not spending 2 hours reading a day, we're spending 12 hours reading a day. And it's not just like a one-off deal, because I have certainly been really into a book and I have spent an entire weekend enjoying that book. And I'll tell you that when I do that and it's a really good book, it's like, oh, wow, I really enjoy that. I love a good book hangover as much as the next fiction lover. However, I do think that there are sometimes groups of people that read all day, every day, every day, every day, every week, every month. And I'm a little bit like, is that really that you're reading for enjoyment, or you're reading for escape, or you're reading to avoid whatever it is we should be spending our time on? So I think just like anything, the things that we enjoy doing, content, media, gaming, any of it, we should enjoy it. It's out there. Like we should have enjoyment and these pleasures in our life. However, I do think it has to be like anything in moderation. And that's for you to decide. What is an appropriate amount of time for me to spend on any given day engaged in this thing that brings me joy? It helps me to relax. But what's the sweet spot where I have enjoyed it? Now I'm feeling refreshed having spent time doing that. And it's not robbing me of large chunks of my life that I could be spending trying to do the things I really want to accomplish in my life. Now I want to talk for just a minute about the most sneaky time wasters. And these are ones that they feel productive, and they're maybe even a part of your overall plan. Maybe they're a part of your business plan or your writing plan or your marketing plan, but you're actually spending most time or an inordinate amount of time on this because it's productive procrastination. And so what do I mean by this? And it's easiest for me to relate it to the writing community because, for example, for me, I am working on my writing career. And so part of that is writing blogs, and part of that is this YouTube channel. And so I can spend a certain amount of time thinking of blog posts, writing a blog post. I can think of, I can spend time thinking of topics for YouTube videos, filming YouTube videos, getting set up for filming a YouTube video. I have to edit that video. And all of that feels productive. And it is a part of my sort of grander plan for having my writing career. However, I do think it's tricky and sneaky because if I'm choosing to spend most of my time working on this YouTube channel or writing a blog post and I'm not actually getting the writing work done because that's a bigger cognitive lift to sit down, to focus, and to get the book actually worked on, then you have to sort of think like, am I doing this in service of my career, or am I doing this task because it's helping me avoid something that is more difficult, which is focusing on getting the book written in the first place. So I think that these are tricky time wasters because it's like they fall into the category of like, oh, well, I need to do this. It's part of my career. It's part of my business plan. But it's not also the thing that is really the largest part of what you need to get done, because it's like if I'm going to call myself a writer, then I actually have to write the book. So just something to be aware of. Some of the other things I find kind of fall into these sneaky time-wasting procrastination things. For me, cleaning the house, because I don't hate cleaning, and maybe this is why I'm not that particularly bothered about getting to a point where, I'm outsourcing that, but I actually kind of enjoy cleaning. I find it therapeutic, and I do enjoy that immediate reward you get, like, oh, the bed is made. Now all cleaning things can flow from a made bed. Vacuuming, mopping, those things, like I just find you get into a flow state with them and they can feel very rewarding. But at the same time, I can If I'm sitting down trying to write and I'm unwilling to sit and focus and it's like, right, I need to get that laundry done. I'm gonna go do that. I'm choosing to do that in that moment because it's helping me to avoid something that is more difficult. But it feels good. It feels like I'm accomplishing something, and I am. It's just not the thing I want to be spending my time on in that particular minute. A few other examples that can be like this is research. So whether you're doing research for your startup business, whether you're doing research for your nonfiction book, whether you're doing research for some aspect of planning or life improvement, whether you're watching this YouTube video because you're trying to figure out how to manage your time better, that's just another thing that can be one of those tricky, time-wasting things that feels really productive, but is actually just kind of, we feel good doing it, but it's not actually moving the needle towards getting those tasks and objectives done that are aimed at the goals that we have set for ourselves. What is it in the service of it? Like, is it entertaining you? Are you learning something from it? And then what's the good balance between engaging in that activity while it's not also taking away, robbing your time really, or working towards those goals that you have set for yourself? Time is our most valuable resource. We should respect it, guard it, and spend it judiciously. I hope these tips have helped you think about your own time management practices and how, with a few small changes, you too can accomplish more with your minutes, hours, and days. I hope you'll click that bell icon. It helps with those YouTube algorithms. And please don't forget to subscribe. That way you'll be the first to know when I upload new videos. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.